Good morning, everyone. I am delighted to welcome you all here today. None of them knew the color of the sky. With these haunting words, Stephen Crane opens his gripping short story, The Open Boat. This story, drawn from Crane's own experience of surviving a shipwreck, it is more than just a tale of survival. Now we can discover why this short story is special in American literature. Next slide. Let's take a moment to learn about the author behind the story. Stephen Crane was a 19th century American writer born on November 1st, 1871 to June 5th, 1900. Throughout his short life, he wrote notable works. Crane was dead at 28. He is best known for his books Maggie, A Girl of the Streets, and The Red Badge of Courage. Several short stories, including The Blue Hotel and The Open Boat. He is recognized by modern critics as one of the most innovative writers of his generation. Next slide. To start, let's examine the story's setting. The Open Boat is a fictionalized account of a very traumatic personal experience in Crane's life. Stephen Crane was working as a newspaper journalist when he boarded a ship that was bound for Cuba on New Year's Eve, 1896. The ship ended up sinking off the Florida coast, and Crane was stranded in a lifeboat with three others for 30 hours. The men eventually reached the shore, but not before the death of one. That experience led Crane to write The Open Boat, which was published in 1897. So, next slide. Before we begin our discussion, let's watch a brief summary video that provides an overview of this story.
Imagine a tempestuous sea, a vessel dashed against its merciless waves. A tale as old as time, yet as fresh as the salt air, where every wave is a heartbeat, every gust a sigh of the indifferent universe. This is the stage set for Stephen Crane's The Open Boat. It's a narrative spun from Crane's own experience, a shipwreck survivor's tale. Four men, the correspondent, the oiler, the cook, and the captain, are thrown into the dance of survival against the vast, unfeeling ocean. Their lifeboat becomes their fragile sanctuary, a tiny speck of existence against the unfathomable expanse of water. The sea, indifferent and relentless, serves as the story's antagonist, challenging the men's endurance at every turn. They row, they toil, they battle against the elements. Their bodies ache, their spirits waver, but they push on. Through shared stories, fears, and hopes, they forge a bond that's as deep as the ocean they're adrift in. Theirs is a fraternity built on adversity, a testament to human resilience. After days of toiling against the elements, they finally spot the distant shoreline, a beacon of hope in their sea of despair. Yet, the sea isn't done with them. The treacherous waves near the shore threaten to capsize their boat, pushing them to their limits. And then, the resolution. Three of the men, against all odds, manage to reach the shore, but the sea claims its due. The oiler, the strongest among them, the most resilient, does not survive. His life is taken by the very sea they had battled, a poignant reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the fragility of human life. Stephen Crane's The Open Boat is a tale of survival, of human resilience against the unpredictable wrath of nature. It's an exploration of the deep bonds forged in the face of adversity, a testament to the human spirit's indomitable will to survive. It's a story that echoes through the ages, a timeless narrative of courage, camaraderie, and the bittersweet taste of survival.
Okay, I hope you will get some idea about this story from this video. Next, I try to explain about a brief summary of this short story using these 6 points. Four men, a captain, oiler, cook, and correspondent, find themselves in a small dinghy boat off the coast of Florida in January following a shipwreck. The captain spots a distant lighthouse, raising the men's hopes for rescue. They celebrate by lighting cigarettes, believing that a life-saving station will send help. Their mood change cheery. Certain of their liberation, they light 4 cigarettes. As the men struggle against the treacherous waters, they exchange address for notifying their families in case they perish. However, no lifesavers come to rescue them, so they attempt to take the boat or to shore themselves. In here, narrator questions why the god of fate would be so cruel, to let them feel hope only to drown them after all. Uh, People on the show appear to signal the men, but their intentions are unclear. As night falls, the signals stop, leaving the men feeling more isolated. More people gather at the beach. One man on the shore takes off his coat and waves to the boat. The men on the boat don't understand what he is trying to communicate. Eventually, the man fades into darkness as the daylight disappears, but no help has come. The correspondent ponders the randomness and cruelty of fate, wondering why the gods would prolong their suffering. 4 men passed the night in the cold boat. The correspondent, still curious why the god would put him through such hardship when they could have let him drown. When the ship went down, during the night, the correspondent recalls a poem about a dying soldier and experiences a profound sense of empathy. Since no help is coming, they're planning to jump out and therefore swim in the cold water. The correspondent sees Billy swim strongly, but Billy is face down in the shallows, his forehead bobbing into the sand between waves. At the end, the correspondent is grateful to be on dry land. Captain Cook and correspondent get to shore safely, but at the end, Billy has died. Next slide. Character analysis. This story is a vivid narrative of survival focusing on the experiences of 4 men stranded at sea. First one is the correspondent. His internal reflections provide a philosophical depth to the story. For example, he simply looked at the sea, dully and swore in an undertone. Next character is the captain. Embodies leadership despite his injury, showing resilience and calmness. And also the cook represent the everyman contributing to the survival effort with optimism. Next character is the oiler. His name is Billy. His death is sad reminder of the randomness of fate, it despite his strength and endurance. Next slide. Now we will explore the key themes. First, let's talk about the man versus nature. Uh, the meaning of the open boat illustrates the value of human life. It proves that the hostile environment is equal for everybody. The author describes that each person, no matter who he is, want to survive and live in comfort. Next theme is brotherhood and solidarity. The story underscores the men's camaraderie and mutual support in the face of adversity. And existentialism and human insignificance emphasize how Crane explore the idea of human being as small and insignificant in the grand scheme of the universe. A struggle of survival theme illustrate the primal struggle and the instinctive fight to survive against overwhelming odds. Next, literary techniques. It embedded within Stevens' gripping narrative, The Open Boat, vivid language. They also accentuate the gulf between an objective journalistic rendering of going down with the ship and the only way to convey the full horror of this experience. On the contrary, their threat of death is not in any way sensationalized because it doesn't need to be the usage of such extreme imagery, makes it even more terrifyingly real. Crane burrows in his fires and startling imagery, something from Gothic romantics, such as poem, but in no other aspect is this story romanticized. And it has realism, Crane's meticulous details in describing the uh, men's struggle. It enhances the story's authenticity. Impressionism, use of vivid and sensory details to immerse the reader in the scene. Personification, we can see at the very end, the sea is described as having a voice, and these men could be interprets. Irony, the men's effort with the indifferent sea, creating a sense of irony. Next, symbols. Symbols are powerful tools that convey meaning beyond words. I'll walk through some key symbols used in short story. The boat. It symbolizes a work of mankind and man's attempt to subdue nature. It is their only hope to fight the onslaught of nature. Sea symbolizes nature's vast indifferent power. Shark is symbol of imminent danger and the relentless presence of death. Lighthouse symbolizes hope and possibility of rescue, a distant and often unreachable God. Bird reflect the randomness and unpredictability of nature. Next. Now, let's move some questions. These questions tie us back to our earlier discussion. Why is the story called realistic fiction? The open board is a story. It considers realistic fiction since the plot is based on real events. While he was heading to his work as a newspaper correspondent, it was inspired by Stephen Crane's survival when boat he was taking to Cuba sank off the coast of Florida. Next question is there any mixed emotions in these scenes? Yes, it has. Humorous. The humor of the bird landing on the captain's head and the captain's breathing easier on account of his hair. Contemptuous. The seeming indignity of a bird on the captain's head and the contempt nature seem to show for the crew of the dinghy boat. Tragic. The gruesome and ominous feelings shared by the other crew members gives the paragraph a tragic air, as though some doom was just foreshadowed. Next. What are the conflict in the story? It has, first one is the man against self. Four men who are stranded in a small dinghy boat in the middle of the ocean, who are continually lightening their fear and exhaustion. Next one is second, man versus nature, which consider their most major conflict in the story and tells how the four men navigate their little lifeboat throughout the harsh environment to enable them to survive. Next one is motifs. What repetitions or patterns do we find in this story? It has some repetitions. For example, the waves were nervously anxious to do something to the boat. It emphasizes empowering force of nature. Using repetitions, giving more dramatic image of the misery and helplessness toward the foreman experience. It has some patterns. When discussing people on the coast, they repeat numerous times, funny, they don't see us. Next. Okay, in this context, shows that despite their best effort, the men don't make progress towards their survival. At the end, my opinion about this masterpiece is survival amidst chaos, the human spirit endures. That's all, everyone. I hope you learned something and thank you for your attending.